All right, guys, I just wanted to talk about whether you should buy a 1/2 inch drive or a 3/8 drive for your very first impact wrench. In the past 2 or 3 months, tons of people have started to look at impact wrenches and they want to buy their first impact wrench. And guess what? They're really looking at the new Milwaukee Gen 2 stubby. Let's ignore the fact that thing does not make the power it's supposed to be making. This video is not really about that, but it is definitely one of the hottest selling impacts in the impact market right now, and it's even at times hard to find on the shelves at Home Depot because it gets sold out real easily. So you have these noobs that are buying their first impact wrench. They're looking at the stubby and they're asking, should I buy a 3/8 or 1/2 inch drive impact, like stubby version, okay? And you have people telling them to buy the 3/8, and to me, it makes no sense at all. And I'm just gonna go through some things here, and hopefully it makes some sense to you why you should go for the 1/2 inch, all right? So first thing is, when you're buying this, you're buying it for the utility of it being a stubby impact, something short, lightweight, easy to fit in tight spaces. You're not buying it because it makes 50 foot-pounds more than the other version or 80 foot-pounds more than the other version of the 1/2 inch or 3/8 or whatever. All right, you have to look at the utility of it. So let me go through this with you. In this video clip, you have this Gen 2 stubby trying to loosen a strut mount bolt. So in that video, it's using a 1/2 inch drive socket, and what I can do, since that's a 1/2 inch drive anvil, I can pull the socket off. I can take this very same socket, put it on my 1/2 inch drive mid torque or my 1/2 inch drive high torque, which is going to be 1/2 inch drive, and that makes sense. All right. What doesn't make sense is carrying pairs or having to have pairs of the same socket and then having to dig for one or the other and flip in between each other, okay? Especially if you're traveling with your tools. If you go to the scrapyard, you don't want to be carrying pairs of the same size socket. It doesn't make sense. This is significant weight. And once you start stacking pairs in your bag or your toolbox, you have a bunch of unnecessary weight that you have to carry around. And again, it doesn't make any sense at all to have a 3/8 in there when you can just have one size, the 1/2 inch drive, which you can use on your stubby, your mid torque, and your high torque, because you can swap between anvil. Let's talk about what you're going to work on with your new impact wrench. I'm going to assume, let's just say it's your car or your truck, and you're going to want to work on your suspension, like change your shocks, or maybe you need to change a wheel bearing and you need to pull it out with a puller, or you maybe need to change a rotor and you need to take off the brake caliper bracket bolt. All right. Or maybe you need to change an axle and you need to take off the axle nut or a crank pulley bolt. This is all 1/2 inch drive work, all right, that you would use a 1/2 inch drive socket for. You wouldn't use a 3/8 drive socket. So again, it doesn't make any sense to go with the 3/8, but the 1/2 inch. All right, so now you pull off your axle nut with your impact, okay? You got the axle nut off, you do whatever you gotta do. Now you wanna put on your axle nut and you wanna use your torque wrench. Here are 2 commonly available torque wrenches. These are 2 Huskies you can get from Home Depot. Most of the time when you find these at the local stores, the 3/8 version is going to be the short version. You're not going to torque an axle nut using this 3/8. Again, doesn't make any sense. Stop the insanity. You're not going to use 3/8 on your axle nut. Okay. For most of the stuff on your car that you would be using a impact on, the torque wrench you would be using would be the 1/2-inch drive. All right, let's talk about the next excuse to buy the 3/8 is the socket length. And people say you can get shorter sockets with the 3/8 drive. Look, I don't know where people have been for the past like 6-7 years, but you can buy Astro Nano stubby sockets that are shorter than any regular 3/8 impact or chrome socket. They're tiny. Now you can get Capri stubby sockets that will solve all your issues. Again, no reason to buy a 3/8 just over like socket size. All right, so when would it be a good time to buy a 3/8 impact wrench? So in my opinion, if you're doing a lot of smaller stuff around the engine bay, interior, just like smaller nuts and bolts, that is the time you go for the 3/8. Because, or what you don't want to do, but I would run like chrome extensions and chrome sockets, because some of them are real thin wall. And sometimes you come across these small little 12 mils or 10 mils that are really close to like a transmission case, or the engine bracket or something, where you can't fit a thicker impact on. Then run like a thin wall 3/8 chrome socket. That makes a lot of sense to do. Now again, there are going to be people experienced and work on all kinds of different stuff, and they decide they want 3/8. That's fine. This really again pointed towards the noobs. And I think one of the issues is you got to think why you're buying this impact wrench. It's to help you. It's to get you out of trouble. You don't want to have to jump on the breaker bar to loosen an axle nut anymore. That doesn't make any sense. You want to retire from that life. So why would you buy a tiny impact that can't do the job that you need it to do, right? So you want to go big or go home. That's the saying over and over. Buy yourself first something powerful, okay? The high torque or mid torque. You can get in tons of tight spaces with this thing. If you need, you can put a swivel on it and have even more room. Then you come back, right? And you buy these niche kinds of tools like this stubby that is there to help you for those lighter weight fasteners that you don't need a lot of power on, so you don't have to break your hand holding a bigger impact. But for your first impact, I'd always recommend you go with something with more power. And again, it's not like a DeWalt Milwaukee thing. I just happen to have a DeWalt in the Milwaukee right now for this video, so don't go crazy about that. So that would be my recommendation. Buy a bigger impact, buy a 1/2-inch drive, have your sockets all be 1/2-inch drive. And if you need something niche like working on engines, then sure, step down. Use like an adapter. You can step down to a 3/8. Don't step up. You want your anvil to be like the strongest part. You don't want that breaking off. So that is just my opinion. And yeah, if you like this video, like and subscribe and whatever.